I'll make sure that it works. Okay. So it's been a very long week for us here.
Freaking long episode. It was awful. God.
It was... Okay.
Why do they foist these 2-hour freaking episodes on us? It feels like 8.
I know. And then it just occurred to me the second that all my episodes are going to be... all my episode numbers are going to be screwed up because when they re-air them, they're playing them as 2 separate episodes. This is actually like episode 7 or something.
Who cares?
Episode 6 and 7 or something. Anyway, it's called Unforgiven, and it's the one where you discover which daughters you like and which daughters you don't. So I've always enjoyed the Brown kids. I've always had a rule about, and I think I said this already this season, about not talking about the under 18 kids. They kind of don't know what they... First of all, they haven't really signed up for the show. Their parents signed them up for the show. And I kind of feel like, you know, I don't want to be a dick to kids. Like, I don't know, just call me wild and crazy, right?
Did we mention the editing is awful?
Okay, so this is a big issue for me. Because so clearly what they did was they had a whole bunch of stuff that happened here. Then they had the catfishing scandal that happened here. But... And so what they did was they took the two and they kind of overlaid them and are playing. So they're doing this
So here's Hunter with the family. Here's Hunter we haven't got to see for 5 months.
5 months.
The same flippin' episode.
And then the same thing, we see Meri and Mariah joking and laughing at the beginning of this episode. And at the end, they like aren't talking. So, and they haven't talked since the catfishing scandal. So I'm finding it a little bit hard to follow who's mad at who and how is everybody feeling, because within the same episode we're traveling, it sounds like about 5 months. Because it sounds like, right? I'm having a hard time following it. That's all I'll say. Anyway, Madison's getting married. It's all about how Cody feels about this. They make this big deal about how many girls they have, how many wedding venues they'll go to. I don't really care. I would have
There's so much just nonsense.
It's just fluff. And everything has to come back to polygamy. So it's like if Maddy is not going to be a polygamist, she's marrying someone who's not going to be a polygamist, they're not going to have a polygamy wedding, and yet somehow we still talked about polygamy weddings. And I'm like, I don't care. And the same thing, we got to hear what the mothers think of the various dresses. And it was like, they really should have watched...
Well, we sure heard what Robin thought.
Yeah. And it was like, I don't really care. They barely showed Maddy. Like, Maddy's the... And it was like... So they needed to get like an infusion of say yes to the dress in here, because they were like, oh, it's a dress, and they all look the same to me. Anyway, then we got to see like 10 minutes of Cody pushing on Robin's belly, enthralling. They really want to make us, now, to be fair, I do want the baby to be healthy, I want the baby to be okay, I mean, I'm not such a jerk that I'm like, oh, screw the baby. I'm just not particularly interested in watching it. You know what I mean? Like, it could all... And it really annoys me that he calls her baby sister constantly. Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's stupid like the rest of the show.
Okay. So, Meri wants to go take Solomon up north. I have mixed feelings about this. Okay. One is that Robin is always like, Captain Polygamy! Polygamy is the best! Unless it, like, somehow inconveniences her, then suddenly she's like, whoa... I will say that, but on the other hand, I would gladly say I wouldn't, like, I'm not planning on, the idea that you would take a 3 or 4-year-old first time overnight away to Utah does seem a bit like a big, like, why don't we start with spending the night at Meri's house? You know, that kind of thing. I don't know anything about kids, which is actually kind of a problem, but I know nothing about children. I know nothing... But, so honestly, hit me up in the comments, is Solomon's behavior at 3 and 4 years old, where he can't be away from his mom for more than a few hours, normal?
She's a liar. She's married to a big kid.
I can't deny that. But anyway, so like the idea that he can't even be with his father for an hour and a half without seeing his mother, that would drive me nuts as a mother. I don't know if that's normal, though.
Sounds like there's an issue there.
Well, I mean, but I don't know. Maybe people say, yeah, a lot of kids go through that phase. So I don't know. Hit me up in the comments if you are some child expert. So, but anyway, so they do this whole big thing, and they're like, no, Solomon can't go. And I'm like, oh, there goes Captain Polygamy. You know, all of a sudden it's inconvenient. But I wouldn't do it either, but I'm also not a polygamist. So there you go. So instead they take Brianna. But then I do kind of also feel like she wants to take Solomon to basically bribe Mariah into talking to her. So I'm kind of like, well, she's not doing this with the greatest of intentions anyway. Wedding planning, I'm going to skip to that and then skip back to Mariah, which they milked for like an entire episode. Okay, so first of all, they'll do the wedding planning. They had like something like 80 or 90 people at Thanksgiving, but they think the wedding's only going to be 150. I'm like, so essentially Caleb's family not coming, none of... We had about that many, maybe a little more, and we don't have nearly that big of a family. And you figure, like, are the cousins not invited? I assume, considering that most of the, Christine grew up in a polygamy family, Robin grew up in a polygamy family, I assume none of the cousins. Well, Meri, Janelle, I don't know.
Who cares? Nobody cares.
Who cares? No one cares. I don't buy this 150 people thing. Anyway, back to Mariah. So, first off, I'll tell you, I can totally understand that she's mad at her mom for having an affair. I actually had a student that this happened to. I taught college. It was a student I was pretty close to. This happened in her family. Her mom ran off with another guy. Well, first she ran off to discover herself, and then she shacked up with another guy and got married, like all within a few months.
Pretty sure discovering yourself just means that.
Right. I know. I'm just trying to be fair. She was devastated. We helped her talk to a professional counselor, not on national TV, all that kind of stuff to try to help her. So I totally, and I'm also a human being. I can imagine how incredibly hurtful this is. What I find really odd, first of all, is that she refuses to talk to her mom, but she does talk to the interview crew on national TV. She did agree to have them come up and to film with them. Okay, so I do kind of feel like right off the bat we got some issues here. Like, she shouldn't have been telling the interview people that she's really hurt and upset and that she felt like she was pushed out of her mom's life. She should be telling her mom that. I get it. She should be saying things like, I'm not ready to move on, okay? She's probably 20, 21, which is an adult, but like not like a full adult. Like, you think of that as being an adult, but go spend some time with that age group and you're like, oh yeah, no, they're barely... What? Do you know?
I just hate this episode so much.
Okay. And then the very first thing that happens is they walk in and they say hi to the dog, who does greet them at the door. And Mariah's like, oh, so they can say hi to my dog, but not me. And I'm like, you're not even in the room. Like, you're like in the kitchen, like 2 rooms away. So that was not the best start. Then she makes a comment. She's like, Mom, why do you draw your eyebrows so thin? And it was like dead silent. And then Brianna, who's 8, 9, 10, was like, that wasn't a very nice question. But if the kid in the room has to point it out, she's like, it wasn't a mean question. I was just asking. Sure, Shady McGee. I'm sure you were just asking. And then she talked about, well, then we see her room, which is bigger than our current bedroom, our current master bedroom. And she's like, oh, I used to have this room all to myself. And I thought, didn't everybody else in that entire house, including the mothers, have to share a room? And she had this gigantic room. So I'm kind of like, okay. Then she talks about how difficult it was, that she was an only child, and only thing her mom had to love, and that her mom pours all her love into her. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this sounds like a legitimate complaint for national TV. This is the kind of thing you really want to drag your mother through. And then after the eyebrow thing, Meri's like, we need to go talk. So they go out and talk, and Mariah says nothing. But she does say, like, everything in her interview. And so I'm just going to say it. Mariah did not look like a very nice person. I did not find her very likable this episode. I totally get her being mad. But for her to air all of her grievances on national TV... Though to be fair, that it was how she was raised. She was raised where they would air their grievances on national TV. Just struck me as being, my memories of Mariah would be that she wanted to go to this incredibly expensive college and wanted Cody to pay more. And Cody's like, I have like 5 kids going away to college and you've got like 1 billion siblings. I can't afford it. And she was like, and Meri stood up for her. And then somebody else pointed out that when Meri didn't get her keys, Mariah, to her new house, Mariah pitched an absolute fit. Do you remember that? Probably not, because you didn't see the episode. Is there anything else you want to add? Of actual use to the recap? My love, my liege, my...
On a scale of 16 to 45, this episode gets half a banana.
Half a banana. You watched Conan.
Yeah, I've
You
been
did.
watching too much of that.
Watching too much Conan. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Oh, hit me up in the comments. I love talking to you guys.